Yes, we are back. Episode 16. This one and one more to go, Sam. Look, as you can see on our right, it is the Warriors. So, our last episode will be the Canberra Raiders, ladies and gentlemen. I am joined for episode 16 of our 2026 season or club season previews. I am joined by none other than the man himself yet again. Sam, how are we, mate?
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing for this penultimate episode?
I'm doing very well, Sam. It's going to be interesting reviewing and previewing the New Zealand Warriors up the Waz or basically last year's campaign and what this season, their outlook for this 2026 campaign. So if you're ready, mate, I'm ready to get straight into that 2025 review. So look, 2025 for the Waz, it kick-started over in Vegas. They took on the team that will be our last podcast, the Raiders, and unfortunately went down in a pretty scrappy affair, Sam, 30 points to 8 over in Vegas to kick off the season. They then came back from Vegas, Sam, and took on the Manly Sea Eagles, and they were too good for the Sea Eagles. They bounced back after their Vegas heartbreak and won 36 points to 16 back at home in New Zealand. They were very blessed, should I say, being able to come back from Vegas and have two games back in New Zealand. So their round 3 game was against the Sydney Roosters, and they took down the Roosters 14 points to 6, Sam. They then moved on to round 4, and in a close affair, they were able to just nab the West Tigers at Campbelltown 26 points to 24. And, looking through the first month of the season, Sam, the Waz are sitting pretty nice in 3-1 and sitting in 6th spot. So they're going along, quite nicely. We move now to round 5 and the Waz have a bye. So pretty good, Sam, to be technically 4-1 through the first 5 weeks with that bye. Pretty good, considering, like they've beaten the Roosters, quality opposition. They've handled the Eagles and the Tigers, which, to be honest, they should be dealing with. So credit to the Waz there for their start. But unfortunately, after the bye, the Waz fell into that little period that some teams have where they have not responded well after the bye, and they went down in a heavy loss, Sam. 42 points to 14 at the hands of the Melbourne Storm down at Amy Park, Sam. They then responded at Go Media Stadium and took down the Broncos, who were not in majestic form, but that game went to overtime. And yes, I am a Broncos fan, and the former Warrior, Reece Lightning, decided to absolutely punt the hell out of the ball and kick it out on the full. And with the breeze, Luke Metcalf stood up and slotted the penalty goal to win the game against the Broncos in trying conditions over there in New Zealand. They then took the confidence from that win against the Broncos in round 7 and took this fixture over to Christchurch, or to Christchurch, should I say, and were able to get the win over the Newcastle Knights, 26 points to 12. So, look, through the first 2 months of the season, Sam, they've played a hell of a lot of games at home. Obviously had that trip over to Vegas, but since coming back, I think I'll just double check now as we just look at the ladder there. So they're in the top 4 after the first 8 rounds of the competition. They've had 1, 2, 3, 4 home games. So they've had an even split, I guess, but you've had a bye, so that takes away. So the 5. So they've only had the Vegas game, Campbelltown, and Amy Park. So bit of a 4-3 with a bye split. So they've had more home games than away games, which has been, helpful for their cause, because it is an absolute fortress at Go Media Stadium, or whenever the New Zealand Warriors play over in New Zealand or at home, they are an absolute force to be reckoned with. Now, round 9 came about, and just like they're doing this year, they have their home game at Suncorp for Magic Round. Look, New Zealand has huge support over here in Queensland, especially in Brisbane. They always absolutely pack out Suncorp whenever the Wars are in town. So, look, even though it is in Brisbane, it is a home game basically for the Warriors. Their support up here in Queensland is none other than anywhere else in Australia. Obviously, not like at home, but it is basically a home away from home, the Wars over here at Suncorp in Brisbane. They took care of the Cowboys, and probably like we discussed in the Cowboys podcast. If you haven't seen that one, make sure you go and check that one out. But it was the game of Magic Round, this Warriors and Cowboys contest. So absolutely thrilling game of football, came right down to the wire, but the Wars were able to hold on. Round 10 came about, and speaking of just holding on, the Wars just held on against the Red V. Were able to get the Chocolates 15 points to 14 over the Dragons in a huge victory. Round 11 came about, Sam, and they were back in Brizzy. The home away from home, the Wars, and they, again, produced another result in their home away from home at Suncorp, taking down the Dolphins 16 points to 12 in another close, gritty affair, Sam. Round 12 came about, and a bit of a rarity for the first time in season 2025, the Wars suffered defeat at home and went down to the Canberra Raiders, the eventual minor premiers, 16 points to 10, Sam. And look, so if we're looking at that, so that comes round 12, Sam, that the Wars went down. They've increased from when we last looked in round 8. They've increased up to third spot. And because they lost to the Raiders, they've unfortunately gone down to third. They were in second, but have gone down to third after the completion of round 12. Round 13 comes about, and it was a high-scoring affair at a core stadium, Sam. The Wars were able to hold on and get the Chocolates 36 points to 30 over the Rabbitohs in a great victory for the Warriors. They continued the great results away from home. They took down the Cronulla Sharks at Shark Stadium, now obviously Ocean Protect Stadium, but they were able to take them down in Cronulla 40 points to 10, and a huge victory, Sam, for the New Zealand Warriors, and to, come into this bye round 15, really all guns blazing. So round 15, the completion of round 15, the Wars have got their points from the bye round and are still sitting in third place, just behind the Canberra Raiders, even though they are on the same points, just due to for and against. Round 16, they responded in not the right way. Again, they are 0 from 2 in the first game after the bye round. The Warriors did not handle the first 2 bye weeks very well with responding afterwards. They went down, though, to a quality opposition in the Penrith Panthers, 28 points to 18, Sam. Round 17 came along, and unfortunately, their love affair with Suncorp and Brisbane had to come to an end by the Broncos. The Broncos were able to get the Chocolates in the round 17 clash, 26 points to 12. The Warriors then had their third and final bye round, Sam, at round 18. Actually, we'll keep going till round 19, and then we'll have a look at that period that you love to call the run home, when wins become losses and losses become wins, Sam. As round 19, they responded for the first time. They got a victory after the bye round, 34 points to 14. Now, I've just missed something very crucial here that I'm going to just quickly go back to. In that game against the Brisbane Broncos, the Warriors lost probably the Daily M leader, I'd say, or if not very close to James Tedesco through 17 rounds, was Luke Metcalf. He suffered an ACL injury in this game against the Broncos and didn't feature for the rest of the campaign. Sam, while I'm rambling away, what game did Mitch Barnett get injured against? Or who was it that he got injured to against? Because I'm pretty sure it was around this period as well, because he missed. Was it in Origin that he got injured?
I have a sneaking suspicion it was the game against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. As a matter of fact, it was. He was
So this
defending
one
his own
here,
try
round
line.
13.
Yep, it was the 36-30 victory that Mitch Barnett did his ACL against the Rabbitohs.
So, yeah, they've lost Barnett in round 13. They've been able to respond with a good win at home. They unfortunately lost against the Panthers and then lost again to the Broncos. And to be honest, this period here is where it started to go a bit south for the Warriors. And they were sitting obviously as pretty as second spot. Now it starts to go in a downwards direction. However, they do get their first win after the bye, like I alluded to before, against the West Tigers, 34 points to 14. So, look, we're looking at the first 19 rounds complete. The Warriors, after those two back-to-back losses to the Panthers and the Broncos, move to fourth position with 28 points. So 4 points ahead of the chasing pack, basically. Round 20 came along, and while it wasn't convincing, they did go to Newcastle and defeat the Knights 20 points to 15 in this run to the finals, Sam. However, they then went to the Gold Coast and their love affair with Queensland had taken another. Oh, actually, no, that was over in New Zealand. So that was at home that the Titans went over to New Zealand and produced a performance. Now, we did see the Titans claim a few upset victories in season 2025, and this was a massive one. But it also signifies this downward spiral that the Warriors experienced going into the finals, Sam. So round 22 came along. They went down in a close affair. This was the game that Herbie Farnworth did get injured in for the Dolphins, but the Dolphins had a quick start and the Warriors were unable to chase them down. So, look, we've had a win, or we've had two wins after the round, their third and final bye in round 18. And then they've had two wins, and then they've suffered two losses to the Titans and the Dolphins. So if we look at round 22, the completion of round 22, the Warriors are 1 point ahead of the chasing pack. So it was 4, but these two wins and then two losses, the chasing pack have not been losing. So it is now 1 point difference to the Warriors holding on to that top 4 spot, Sam. Round 23 came along, and the first week of Indigenous round. And in their away game over against the Bulldogs, the Warriors went down 32 points to 14. They then came back to round 24 at home and were able to very gritty contest this one was. We're able to hold on against the Dragons and win 14 points to 10. So round 24, they've lost round 23 against the Dogs, and round 24, they win against the Dragons. Some results have gone their way. It's still 1 point the difference with 3 rounds to go to keeping that top 4 spot, Sam, a spot that they dominated and secured for a little part over the first half of the season. Basically, I'd say just over half of the season, they dominated and owned that top 4 spot, but a few crucial injuries to big players has not helped them at all. Now, round 25, they go to the Gold Coast and they continue the love affair with Queensland, only losing the one game in Queensland to the Brisbane Broncos, Sam. 32 points to 18. They get the revenge on the Titans on the Gold Coast. Again, massive turnout from the Warriors faithful down on the coast. Round 26, however, and these two are crucial. So round 25, they get the win. They probably, I'll just double check for everyone at home. Round 25 came about, and they've kept the gap. But the Panthers have lost, so the gap is 2 now to the Broncos and Sharks. Round 26, the Parramatta Eels come to New Zealand and claim a special victory. Look, with how the Warriors had how they've been heading in these last couple of months, it wasn't as big as an upset as it would have been at the start of the season, but it was still an upset nonetheless due to the Warriors and playing at their stronghold at Go Media Stadium. For the Eels to come over across the ditch and get the job done was very big. And so with 1 round to go, let's have a look at Vegas, shall we? No. So round 26, they've lost the top 4 spot. It's not dead and gone, but they've lost the top 4 spot, and they were needing the Broncos to lose to the Storm, which was definitely feasible considering Storm had players coming back. And the Broncos' record against Melbourne is absolutely tripe. But I'm just going to quickly check just to see who Cronulla had in that final week. So Cronulla had the Canterbury Bulldogs, and the Bulldogs actually fielded a very strong team that we touched on in our Bulldogs podcast, Sam. But as you all know, the Bulldogs lost, or the Sharks beat the Bulldogs, and also the Broncos beat the Storm. So the Broncos secured 4th spot. The Sharks had 5th spot, and the Warriors needed to pull off a mammoth victory to get into the top 4. It was basically impossible. And unfortunately, they went down by 1 point, 27 points to 26 against the Manly Sea Eagles to end their regular season campaign for the 2005 season, Sam. And just like 2 varying parts of the season, like 2 halves, really. First half of the season, it was just absolute dominance. The Warriors were flying up in 2nd spot, and you couldn't have asked for a worse end to the season. But it was, compounded by huge injuries to key players, and they just couldn't, even though, like Tanner Boyd and other players came in and they, had a few good games, it just wasn't enough to fill the void lost by those star players, Sam. And they've ended up finishing the regular season, the New Zealand Warriors, in 6th position. So they did secure themselves a home elimination final, Sam. But man, what a 2 halves of a season. What a fall off, I guess. And like, they did string together a couple of wins there, but it was rough going in that back end of the season, man.
Always want the Warriors to do well, and it turned out to be a good season, but they would have been bitterly disappointed with how it all turned out. So their second half of the year, when they lost that game to the Canberra Raiders, their home record then went 2 wins and 5 losses for the rest of the home and away regular season. So their home form left a truckload to be desired. Mitch Barnett and Luke Metcalf going down with ACL injuries 3 weeks apart was an absolutely massive loss for the New Zealand Warriors. And for a team that was predominantly a top 4 team for most of 2025, I got to say, like, in hindsight, they weren't really a convincing top 4 team at all. Their first few games against Manly and the Roosters were impressive. They then got away with a very entertaining game where Halasima ran down the sideline and saved the Tigers' bacon, if I'm not mistaken. And they played some really good footy, and they were very, very impressive. But besides maybe the victory against the Sharks, where they won 40-10 and where they belted the Tigers by about 20 or so points, there was never really any other game throughout the year that you would say, all right, the Warriors are back and they're here to really threaten for the title, even though everybody, unless if you're a massive Warriors hater, really wanted them to explode and ambush the finals series. So, despite some really good performances at the start of the year, I'd say that that loss against the Melbourne Storm really put the handbrake on the confidence and the momentum of the Warriors. And they, a Reece Walsh boot that went way too far got them the victory on that night. And they were the better team, but they nearly choked it hard. And that game against the Newcastle Knights, that wasn't convincing at all. They made hard work of that in the end. And so too against the Cowboys, with the North Queensland boys having that massive second half comeback. So yeah, the Warriors of 2025, again, like every other year, just about, they were a very weird, inconsistent side. And again, I reiterate, whilst they were a top four team for almost 80% of the season, they weren't a convincing top four team. And when they lost Metcalf and Barnett, things really did derail. And the Warriors ended up winning 2 home games out of their final 7 to finish off 2025, man. So yeah, a lot left to be desired, and to think that it really hinged on one player as to whether or not their premiership hopes could succeed or not. It's a little bit of a concern going into 2026, considering they're missing that man for at least the first month of the competition.
Thank you, Sam. All right, it comes to the finals, a home final against the Penrith Panthers, and unfortunately, it's 2 from 6, Sam. 2 wins, and they suffer another loss. 6 losses at home after that game that you alluded to, Sam. They showed a hell of a lot of fight, more fight than they had shown in other games.
Absolutely. This was their best performance in a month.
Yeah. Look, there's obviously other games there, but the opposition that they were versing and just the results, they showed a lot of resolve in this game. There was, all the Penrith were favourites, even though it was in New Zealand. Like it was a strange place for the Warriors to be, but you argue they deserve to be on there because of their start of the season, but the end of the season, you could argue that they didn't really deserve to be there. But in saying that, the fight, the strength, the determination, the never give up attitude that they showed in that game, they proved why they deserved to be there. They just were unfortunately just couldn't stop the powerhouse of the Penrith Panthers, who were on a bit of a run at the back end of the season. Them and the Broncos were probably the 2 form teams, as well as the Raiders there at the back end of that regular season, stringing together victories left, right, and center. So,
just quickly as well, I think it was maybe even on the game day, but in the lead up to the game, Rocco Berry copped another injury, unfortunately, and so that forced Leka Halasima to play. It was Rocco Berry that went down the week before. That's right, and then Halasima was selected to play at centre, and Kirk Capewell was wearing jersey number 4 in the second row. So they had to deal with some injuries and some late changes as well. Samuel Healy coming in late for the New Zealand Warriors, man. But you're right, bro. They were right there next to Penrith Panthers for about 60 minutes. And then, as we spoke about in the Panthers season preview podcast, please go and check that out, everyone. That's just a good kick after the Warriors were coming for him. They were really gunning for him, but a good kick that was allowed to bounce by the back 3 of the Warriors, jumped into the lap of the Panthers, and then they were never really headed from that point on. But you're right, man. They did show in this game that they deserved to play finals.
Yeah. And look, it was I think you got to be sort of happy like they still made they played finals football, considering how the season ended. That back half of the season was very rough for the Wars. So yeah, they did New Zealand, their country, very proud. And look, while it didn't work out, it was still a good season for the New Zealand Warriors. But I'm sure all Warriors fans are saying, yeah, it was a good season, but we want to win. So look, in speaking about winning, before we go, I just want to give a huge shout out to a few players that absolutely came onto the scene in season 2025 for the New Zealand Warriors. One is the man at the bottom, Mr. Halasima, was absolutely exceptional in season 2025. Aaron Clark, that came over from the Titans, was unbelievable. Dimitri Viamuga was absolutely exceptional as well. And man, like they did exceptional jobs for the New Zealand Warriors. And look, it could have been a hell of a lot worse if it wasn't for those three men that stepped up immensely when, injuries and their season was spiraling a bit in the wrong direction. So there was still a few positives for the Warriors, even though that they did get eliminated in the first week. However, let's go the gains and losses, Sam. So New Zealand Warriors, let's see who's coming in and out of New Zealand for the 2026 season. So the people departing New Zealand, a man who has got a cult following, Big Bunty Afoa. Everyone loves Big Bunty. And, when you think of Bunty Afoa, you think of the New Zealand Warriors, but now you need to think of Big Bunty in a West Tigers strip. So he is headed over to the Tigers. Tom Alley, Toby Crosby, and Kalani Going, as well as Freddie Lussick. The New Zealand Panthers has come into play, and 4 of the Warriors squad from 2025 is going across the ditch to Penrith. Then we've got 2 heading to South Sydney. Mr. Edward Cossey and Moala Graham Taufa have gone to the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Setu 2, that, yes, by the time this podcast comes out, you'll see that Setu 2 is starting for the St. George Dragons in their first trial this weekend. And Dylan Walker left midway through the 2025 campaign to go to Parramatta after an incident or some things that happened there that we won't go into. But it was, it's hard to say which is the biggest loss on this list. Like, they're all players that are all a part of the squad. Like, to me, I'm not going to say Dylan Walker because he left the club and, he was gone last season. So in terms of, he played football for Parramatta last season. So that one's gone. Let's forget about that Dylan Walker one. I think if I'm looking at it from, the future and the raps that I'm hearing out of Penrith, and how he finished his Warriors campaign in New South Wales Cup, I think you've got to look at Kalani Going, I think, is probably the biggest loss, or potentially Toby Crosby, because this man, Toby Crosby, has been killing it in Panthers preseason training, and look at him there. He is a big, big figure. And I just hope that this doesn't turn out like a Eloise or Eli Katoa situation for the New Zealand Warriors, where they've let a player go maybe too early and they've, hasn't really fit their system, but then they've gone to another system and just taken it by storm. So I think from that list, look, while they're all some quality players, I think that if you look at it from the long term of things, yes, Kalani Going, I think, is like 28 years of age, but he's just playing some really, really good football at the moment. And Toby Crosby, if you're looking to the future, I think is one that there's big raps on. Look, Moala Graham Taufa hasn't really had much of an opportunity for the Warriors, but there are some solid raps coming for him, but it's just the noise isn't as loud as the other two. So, look, they've lost a few squad members there, Sam. Look, were any of these playing outside of Dylan Walker in the 1 to 17 on a weekly basis? No, they weren't. They were all just sort of come in, filled in when required throughout the season. But yeah, I think that Going and Crosby are the biggest losses on this list. What are your thoughts about the losses for the New Zealand Warriors, Sam?
Dylan Walker is a pretty massive loss, but he didn't play enough to really be a factor in 2025. But he was certainly Yeah, he's a loss, but I completely agree with you, man. These Warriors fans have been salivating about the thought or the prospect of Kalani being a mainstay in the 1-17 for a few years now, man. And considering the form that Going was in 2025, putting in arguably his best 12 months of his career so far, it is very. It's probably a bit of a bitter taste. It is a bitter taste for Wise fans to see Going go.
Yes, yes. But let's turn to some positives, Sam. Let's turn to some gains for the New Zealand Warriors, and let's talk about the positives in a good limelight at the moment. And let's talk about some men that are coming to New Zealand to prove a point, my friend. So, look, I'm going to start with two of the last two, Jai Linane and Hayes Mellors. Um, these two men have come from the Knights and Rabbitohs and have actually, I think Mr. Mellors has been very impressive since coming across the ditch. I can't remember. Warriorholic might have posted it or someone else, but said that Mr. Mellors was doing some serious work in preseason and had impressed. So, very, very good for these two young men to come over. I believe they both play in the halves. That they come over there and do some good stuff for the Warriors. Will they be playing straight away? I don't think so. I think these signings are something that to provide a bit of depth and could feature through it for the Warriors in years to come. But I'd say they'd be behind probably Jet Cleary, and then you've got the log jam of halves with Tamare Martin, Harris Tavita, Metcalf. So there's a heap of players there that can feature. So I think they'd be behind those. But look, names to look out for in years to come. Now, these two men, Elefenia, Khan, Pereira. I cannot believe that the New Zealand Warriors have AKP on their books. If you haven't seen the Gold Coast Titans podcast, please go and watch that one because I was very adamant that Des Hasler basically forced Khan Pereira out of the club, and he is a prolific try scorer. And playing outside of the likes of Metcalf, Halasima. I'm scared. It's scary to think how Khan Pereira could go this season. I have heard from New Zealand that AKP is impressing. He is training well, looking like he is going to get a round one spot. But man, what a talent AKP is. Rapid speed. And yeah, unfortunately for me, he's that good that he just comes straight into the starting team. They have to find a spot for AKP on one of the wings for me. Then they've got Mr. Morgan Gannon that has come all the way from Leeds Rhinos. And he has signed a 3-year deal with the New Zealand Warriors. I will go into Mr. Morgan Gannon a bit later, but he is a back rower and he has played a fair few games in the Super League. So I will touch on a bit more in Morgan Gannon. So please stay tuned for that. But he will provide a bit of back row depth for the Warriors. And considering, Kate, he's got that versatility, can play in the centers, but he's getting towards the back end of his career. Then you've got, Halasima that's taking the world by storm. I think that there's, I don't think Kurt Capewell is going to play every single game this season. So I think having someone like a Gannon on the bench, I think a Dimitri Viamuga or Viamuga, however you pronounce it, I'm sorry, New Zealand fans, is I think going to shift into more of a middle role this season, play predominantly in the middle. So for me, I think Gannon will be on the bench and will come in and, maybe give Capewell a rest and come on in the last 20, 25 minutes and potentially more if Capewell is not playing. So look, I think it's some quality gains, fills in some spots that the Warriors needed to, considering the losses that we just discussed. So yeah, I think pretty solid, Sam. Pretty solid, especially those two with Gannon and Khan Pereira. I really love them.
I know nothing about Mr. Gannon, so going to be watching him with a keen eye. But to have Cam Pereira all of a sudden come on the market and snap him up so quickly is a massive bonus for the New Zealand Warriors. So he could be a hero over there in New Zealand if he has a blockbuster season to come. But the question is his defensive capabilities. That's what the main question was when he was at the Gold Coast Titans. So we'll see how he goes, man. But yeah, not a couple of bad signings there for the Gains.
Yeah. Yeah, no. They'll be special, don't you worry, Sam. They might have lost Bunty, Big Bunty Afoa, but they might have a new fan club and cult following coming with Cam Pereira. Because I think he's gonna score tries on tries on tries. He's gonna score a lot. I think in season 2026. Anyway, speaking of youngsters, Sam, and let's go straight to the train and trial and development list for the New Zealand Warriors for this 2026 campaign. And I know a couple of these men, Sam, obviously Jet Cleary with the very famous last name. But I'm very intrigued to hear your thoughts on one Harry Inch, who is very, very special youngster that New Zealand or rugby league is very lucky to have because of rugby union. So rugby union wanted Harry Inch very badly. So without further ado, mate, take it right away with the training, trial and development list for the New Zealand Warriors.
All right then. So Jack Cleary, he ended up representing Ukraine, and he played 3 games for Ukraine last year, and it was a smash up every single time. So he absolutely killed it for them. He won the New South Wales Cup and the state championship with the New Zealand Warriors last year. He played 13 games in New South Wales Cup, averaged 186 kicking meters, and had 4 try assists in 13 games. So not great, but then again, I didn't watch New South Wales Cup Warriors team, so maybe he was a bit better than those stats would suggest. The next man on the list is Kalis Paul Patuko. He can play centre, he can play fullback. He represented the Cook Islands last year in the Pac Champs. Unfortunately, Cook Islands didn't win, but he had a couple of nice moments, Mr. Patuko did. And he made his New South Wales Cup debut last year and only played in the one game. And in that one game, Mr. Patuko, he scored a double on debut, ran 148 meters, and made about 8 tackles for 0 missed in his New South Wales Cup debut. This guy has got a lot of nice raps about him coming out of the Wars. He is signed on until 2028, I believe. And he could be in first grade next year. I don't think we'll see him this season, but you might have a fairly impressive prospect there in Mr. Paul Patuko. Going now into Mr. Bishop Neal. And speaking of impressive, he may not be the tallest bugger, but he looks intimidating as the next big friggin' giant. Bishop Neal is a second rower who was signed on until 2028. He has won back-to-back Harold Matthews premierships for the New Zealand Warriors, and he was the club's highest try scorer in 2025. He scored 8 tries in 10 matches at second row, and in 2024 he scored one of the best tries of that season with a chip and chase from about halfway and beating about 4 or 5 Canberra Raiders defenders in the process. This man, if he bulks up, and I'm sure he will, if this man bulks up and lives up to his potential, they've got another really impressive second rower floating around over there in Auckland in the form of Mr. Bishop Neal. Now, you've already said it. Harry Inch, he is a playmaker who has converted from rugby over to rugby league. He is signed on until the end of 2027, so he's only got a short time to really impress and take the game by the scruff of the neck. He will be playing Jersey flag in 2026, and he trained with the Crusaders for a couple of years there. Never made his debut in first grade for Super Rugby, I believe, but he was a part of that very successful system over there in the Crusaders. So there is a thought that maybe he could be a lock if he stays in rugby league. And but for the time being, since he's so young, he's only 19 years old, but he's probably going to play half or 5/8 in 2026. But then when he gets older and gets a little bit bigger, possibly a little bit more slower, he might revert to being a ball playing lock. That's the word coming out. But yeah, Harry Inch has got he's got some nice attributes to his game. The next man, Geronimo Doyle, is a centre. He was named as the New South Wales Cup Team Man of the Year for the New Zealand Warriors. And Geronimo Doyle is just this impressive centre that's coming through. And the next name on this list is, excuse my pronunciation, is Ngana Vake or Ngana Vaki. He is also a centre, born in Tonga. His first year, he played every single friggin' grade in 2024. Unfortunately, in 2025, he suffered a chronic injury to his shoulder, I think, and he wasn't able to play too many games across 2025, but he's on a train and trial list. He is at centre. He went through all the grades in his first year, so there's got to be something about him that's very, very impressive. So watch out for Vake or Vaki, probably again in the Jersey flag, but New South Wales Cup is definitely a possibility. And then the last name on this list, Mr. Brandon Norris, born in the Northern Territory, and then the Brisbane Broncos picked him up to play for the Broncos Academy in 2022. He then stuck around for a couple of years, and then he's shifted over to the New Zealand Warriors there last year, and he did well. He played in the Jersey flag and did really well. So he's going to stick around in the Jersey flag in 2026. So as far as players that could appear in first grade this year, I don't think anyone from this list will appear in first grade. Jet Cleary would maybe be the closest, but there's a couple of names there that I think the Warriors really need to hang on to. And if Harry Inch is impressed by rugby league, and if rugby league is impressed by Harry Inch, hopefully that the relationship can maintain for many, many, many years, more than what is just the 2-year deal for Harry Inch. But Paul Patuko, Bishop Neal, and Harry Inch, and of course Cleary, those first 4 names on this list, one of the smaller lists that we've done so far, are the more impressive names to watch out for. I personally am pretty excited about Bishop Neal and Paul Patuko, but I don't think we'll see them in first grade this year. But watch out for them in the future, Dor.
Yeah, it's a good group of youngsters, Sam, there, like you said. I don't think we'll see like Bishop Neal this season, but maybe in coming seasons we'll definitely see him for sure. Like, yeah, Harry Inch, there's a lot of hype. It was a huge scalp for the Warriors to get him to rugby league over the rugby, because rugby, as I said earlier, were very high on him. I think Jet Cleary will definitely continue to grow as a playmaker, as he gets more time, whether it be in New South Wales Cup. Well, that's where it's most likely going to be coming from. And if he can help the Warriors win another New South Wales Cup and continue to grow as a playmaker, I think it will spearhead his chances of top grade football in years to come, Sam. But yeah, not the biggest list, not as strong as the Roosters list that we touched on in the last podcast, Sam, but some good names nonetheless, and with a very exciting future looking ahead for some of those players, Sam. So look, let's continue on and let's look at the 2026 draw. So now, as we always do, let's go through the draw. So the Warriors should have no qualms in pushing for an even better finish in 2026 than they had in 2025, only having to play last year's top 3 sides just once the entire campaign. They've been heavily favored with over 50% of the season against teams who didn't play finals last year. So over 50% of their matches this season against teams that didn't play finals last year. They're also one of the lucky teams to boast 0 5-day turnarounds and a massive 17 times that they have 7 days or more of game or of rest or turnaround between games. They play the Knights, Tigers, Broncos, Panthers, Titans, Sharks, Dolphins, and Dragons twice. So Knights, Tigers, Titans, and Dragons. And then you've also got, Dolphins, but we expect them to be better in season 2025. But then the Knights and Tigers. So a pretty good team, a run of teams that have only that they have to verse twice in season 2026. The teams that they play once are the Roosters, the Raiders, the Storm, the Eels, the Cowboys, the Bulldogs, the Rabbitohs, and the Seagulls. And just before the bye rounds that the Warriors have is rounds 10, 14, and 18. So all in and around that origin period, all pretty condensed in and around there, Sam. I just wanted to make special note before you go into the run home of and I'll let you talk about it, is the game against the Cowboys, a special game for the New Zealand Warriors, mate. Do you want to allude into that contest against the North Queensland Cowboys and the specialness of that fixture, mate?
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. So the Christchurch earthquakes that happened about a decade or so ago crumbled the original Christchurch Stadium, and then Apollo Projects Stadium was built up very quickly, and it will be very quickly knocked down as well. Very makeshift sort of stuff to host the Crusaders, and for a very successful team like the Crusaders, they deserved a better stadium than that. And so for I think 3 years now, they've been working on it. One New Zealand stadium in Christchurch is going to open officially in April for the Super Rugby, but the first ever game, first grade rugby league game that will be held at Christchurch's One New Zealand Stadium will be happening on a Sunday afternoon in June, and it is the Warriors versus the Cowboys, and would have loved to have gone, but I've got other things on my mind. But the what I wanted to say though is that that game sold out inside the space of about 5 days, and those tickets went on sale about, I think, the last week of December or really early January. It was the hottest ticket in town, so that's going to be a very special, very emotional occasion for the city of Christchurch, and it's an honor. Even though I'm just a fan, it is an honor to see the Cowboys be a part of what will be a very special day out there at One New Zealand Stadium, Dor.
Do you want to touch on the run home, my friend, as you always do with the final run home for the New Zealand Warriors before I give?
Yeah, man. Yeah, yes, sir. Alrighty. So the New Zealand Warriors, their run home to the final starts in round number 20, like it does for every other team in the NRL. And the New Zealand Warriors, it's a 50-50 split, 4 away and 4 home, and it starts on a Saturday afternoon at Go Media Stadium against the Dragons. 7 days later, they're on the road against the Bulldogs at a core. 7 days later, they're up at the Gold Coast, their second home away from home. They're back home at Go Media Stadium for a Friday night clash against the Penrith Panthers. And then they have an 8-day turnaround before they take on the Broncos up at Suncorp Saturday, 7:30. That's going to be a Channel 9 free-to-air game, a rare Channel 9 game for the New Zealand Warriors. 7 days later, they're still going to be stuck in Australia. They're going to take on South Sydney at Accor on a Saturday. And then 8 days later, round 26 and round number 27, they have back-to-back home games to finish off the home and away regular season at Go Media Stadium against the Newcastle Knights and the Manly Sea Eagles. Dor, they can account for half of these teams in the run home to the finals. I think they can account for the Dragons. I think they can go to the Gold Coast and pinch the Titans. And those final two games, even though the Sea Eagles did get them in the final home and away regular season game in 2025, it happens again. But this time it's at Go Media Stadium, and I do think the Warriors are a better outfit than the Manly Sea Eagles are again. But if they've got dreams and desires to make the top eight, those final two games in the home and away regular season are very gettable. They're very, very doable. But to take on Souths, Broncos, and Panthers and Bulldogs inside that final 8 weeks in the run home to the finals, they're going to have to really earn it. So it's not the most difficult. It's not the most easiest. They're going to have to win at least 2 of those, I would suggest, to really give themselves a fair shake to defeat either Rabbitohs, Broncos, Panthers, or Bulldogs. They've got to win 2 of those 4 in the run home to the finals, I feel like, Dor. But not bad, but not great either.
No, well, so the Warriors have a more than ideal run for much of this 2026 campaign. If they can get through their toughest block, which is probably the middle of the season, their favorable draw could help them climb even higher than last year's 6th place finish. So the games that they play against the 2025 top 8 and bottom 9 teams, Sam. Top 8, 10 games. Top 4, 5 games. They have a whopping 14 games against the bottom 9 and 7 games against the bottom 4. They have 0 5-day turnarounds. They have 6 6-day turnarounds. And like I touched on a bit earlier, they have 17, a whopping 17, 7+ day turnarounds. Pretty good draw. A-, B+ is my final grade. For the New Zealand Warriors, probably more an A-, in my opinion, for the 2026 Warriors draw, Sam. With their 2 trial games that are coming up next week and the week after against the Manly Sea Eagles and the Dolphins for their 2026 preseason challenge, my friend. Anything else you want to touch on in regards to the draw, my friend?
Yeah, I look at their first 4 weeks, Dor. If they can nab the victory against the Roosters in round 1, I look at the following 3 weeks. I think if they get the win against the Roosters, they could go 4-0. I really think if they can get that done and pick up momentum, I think they have the capabilities. They've got 3 home games inside their first 4 weeks of the season. And yeah, the Tigers are going to be different. The Raiders are going to be tricky as well, not to discredit them. And Newcastle, new spine as well. But I think they have the ability to. But that first game is going to be really important. The other 2 highlights of their draw, they're going to be hosting the Dolphins on Anzac Day, not at Go Media Stadium, but at Sky Stadium in Wellington. That's going to be 6 o'clock Queensland time kickoff. And then I would argue they are the match of the round, the most anticipated game of Magic Round as things currently stand. They are poor Broncos. Warriors versus Broncos, and Warriors are the home team, and it's going to be the Channel 9 Sunday afternoon game. So that is going to be pumping. The Suncorp is going to be heaving, and you and I are going to be there for it. So really excited to see Warriors versus Broncos Sunday afternoon footy. So those are the other 2 highlights for the New Zealand Warriors to look out for.
All right, my good friend. Let's continue moving forward. And let's look at the injury ward for the New Zealand Warriors. So Luke Metcalf is looking at a return in around round 7. Coach Andrew Webster has come out and confirmed that. Mitch Barnett as well has been confirmed. He's looking at a return around round 2 or round 3 from ACLs. So that's really good to see them both back. Tua Peaky suffered a leg injury on the farm. He is pushing. He should be back for round 1. And Rocco Berry, unfortunately, had shoulder surgery. His horrid run with injuries continue. They're saying he's going to miss the opening couple of rounds. So I'd say he's looking at like a round 4, round 5 return for Rocco Berry, Sam. Otherwise, just basically factor that into our decisions when it comes to our round 1 team. So for me, Sam, I've got Chance, Nickel Klokstad at fullback. I've got Khan Pereira and Dallin Watinza-Lesniak on the wings. I've got Pompey and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in the centres. I've got Harris Tavita and Tanner Boyd in the halves. I've got Fisher Harris and Jackson Ford as my props. I got Wade Egan at hooker. I've got Kurt Capewell and Leka Halasima in the back row. I've got Aaron Clark at lock. I've got Mr. Samuel Healy at jersey 14. I've got Dimitri Viamuga at jersey 15. I've got Morgan Gannon, the new English import, on the bench in jersey 16. And I've got Murata Niokore on the bench there in jersey 17. I've got the ever versatile Tamare Martin in jersey 18. I've got Tanner Stowers-Smith, who was great in season 2025 in jersey 19. And I've got Jacob Laban in jersey 20, Sam. So that is my 1 to 20 for the Warriors team in round one, mate. What are you doing with your team for round one?
Well, you and I are once again exactly the same. Great minds think alike. From 1 down to 13, the change for me is that I'm bringing in Tanner Stowers-Smith, and that's no disrespect to Gannon. It's just I've never seen Gannon play before, so I have no evidence to to push his case to be a part of the 1 to 17. But Tanner Stowers-Smith, I was thoroughly impressed by. I really liked the work that he did last year. And then my 18 to 20 is Martin, Jacob Laban, who's is a very talented young man, isn't he? And is speaking of talented young man, I just want to sort of derail you just for half a second, man. Tane Tolopiki, this young man is first grade quality. He has pulled victories out of the fire for the New Zealand Warriors on a handful of occasions, most famously at Magic Round a couple of years ago to get the win against the Penrith Panthers. He is off contract at the end of 2026. If you are anyone that is in search of a fullback, i.e. potentially Perth Bears, Papua New Guinea Chiefs, or whoever, this bloke needs to be re-signed, or this bloke needs to be up. He needs to be playing first grade. He is way too good. Now, I'll get into my thoughts a little bit deeper about the current fullback situation when we go into our ladder predictions, man. But if I'm Tane Tolopiki and someone's knocking on my door halfway through this year, man, I'm taking it. He's way too talented to be playing New South Wales Cup.
It is a round one team prediction, Sam. At no point do I think that Chance Nickel Klokstad has the fullback jersey on lock. I just think this interrupted preseason with this injury and whatnot, it might take a little while for Peaky to get into groove and whatnot. So, but I'm not ruling that out. I think Chance's form last season was pretty average. And that's being nice, I think, in my opinion. So, he's obviously got Tuipuki's right on his back, and on recent form, Tuipuki was outstanding as well for the Warriors in New South Wales Cup too. So I think that, look, if Chance doesn't start the season well and, results aren't going the Warriors' way, I wouldn't be surprised if Chance is dropped or moved to like center or something like that. And, maybe Dallin's not performing well, RTS goes to the wing or something like that, or AKP hasn't worked out, RTS goes to the wing and Chance goes in center, or it could just be Chance gets dropped completely. But I know how much Chance is loved over there in New Zealand, so hopefully he can repay the love and support with a much better season in 2026. All right, breakout player. Let me try and give you a bit of history, my friend, with Mr. Morgan Gannon. All right. So, Morgan Gannon, it's all there nicely for us. I haven't seen much of him, obviously, as well, but I've heard, and you just think of it, to be honest, like you look back at people that have come over from England and come to the NRL and the job that they've sort of done. I could only argue that probably the most unsuccessful is probably what was his name from Newcastle? Came across Anyway, the name will come back to me. But he was probably, outside of him, he was the only one that sort of really didn't work out in regards to English players that have come over. But English forwards that have come over. Morgan Gannon is not the only one that has come over. Morgan Knowles has also come over from England, and he's playing at the Dolphins this season. So look, he's scored but most in a season, 6 tries. He's got 12 for his career. He's played 67 games for the Leeds Rhinos as well, Sam. Look, all the stats from Super League are basically just non-existent because he's obviously left, so they haven't kept it. But look, in my opinion, why would the Warriors sign someone to a 3-year deal if they weren't confident that this man is what they're looking for? This is why I think he's going to break out. He's only 21 years of age. Obviously just finished in the Super League. He's played for the Rhinos, I think, for the since 2021. So make of that what you will. He's played top grade football over in England for a long period of time. The Warriors seem Andrew McFadden is very, very keen on him, and there's a bit of a background as well. His dad, Morgan's dad, Morgan Gannon's father, was born here. Jim Gannon was born in Newcastle and was also coached by Andrew Webster during his time with Hull KR. So he played 16 years in the Super League or whatever. He played 2 years also with the Balmain Tigers in the NRL before he moved to England. And played for a numerous amount of clubs. So, look, I think at the end of the day, look, there's not really too much to go on. I wish I had rugby league history in my back pocket and I could give him a call and just ask, what his thoughts were on Morgan Gannon, an astute Super League watcher. But I'm very excited to see how Morgan Gannon goes. And look, it's basically a clean slate. You come over here, there's nothing that's there. He's obviously had a good career over playing in the Super League, 60 plus games, which is no mean feat, but you come over here and you start fresh. And I just think he's going to be a player that, okay, like Sam and I don't know much about him, but I think by the end of the season, we'll know a hell of a lot more about Morgan Gannon. And if from all accounts, it's looking like he will play in the 1-17 and slot into that team right away for round 1. So, yeah, I think just it's a very clear Will Price. That was the name for Newcastle. He was, to me, in my opinion, the only real English import that has really failed to get going over here. There's been plenty of good English forwards that have come over. Graham, Ellis, Sutton didn't have the greatest time, but Nicholson impressed in his first year. Like Morgan Knowles was one of England's best in the Ashes series. I'm sure Morgan Gannon will be absolutely fine, and he will have the same sort of impact as those English forwards that have come over here. Sam Burgess, that's another one. Like there's plenty of good forwards that have come over here from the Super League and made an impact, Sam. So I'm expecting Morgan Gannon to be that, and a name that we will be very much familiar with come season's end, Sam. You, however, have gone for Mr. Samuel Healy, Sam. So feel free to take it away, and I'll put up his stats on the screen to try and help out the accord for you, my friend. But the floor is yours.
Yeah, Samuel Healy made his debut against the North Queensland Cowboys in Magic Round, and damn near scored a try on debut as well. Sam Healy was super impressive for the Cronulla Sharks reserve grade team, Jersey Flegg team. It was a massive coup. A lot of Sharks fans were actually really despondent about the loss of Mr. Samuel Healy. And he's gone from strength to strength since coming over. Healy was a part of the New South Wales Cup Grand Final winning team. He scored a try in that New South Wales Cup Grand Final. And, some people would suggest that Sam Healy did break out to a degree last year. I wouldn't agree with that. He only played about 7 first-grade games. It felt like he played a hell of a lot more than that. But every touch that he had, he looked dangerous. He looks crafty. He looks like he can fight his way out of a paper bag while he's handcuffed at times, man. Yeah, Samuel Healy's got pace as well off the mark. So if he darts out a dummy half, you've got to be really on top of him. I think he is on the precipice of starting over Wade Egan. If Wade Egan, unfortunately, touch wood that he doesn't, but if Wade Egan continues to have these false starts with his injuries and all that stuff, I think it'll just have to come to a point where Samuel Healy will just have to start for the New Zealand Warriors, man. The trick of it, well, not the trick of it all, but one thing that needs to be noted is that he is able to talk to other clubs this November 1st. They cannot, the New Zealand Warriors, afford to let Sam Healy go under any circumstances. He is the future of the Wires, and he might be homesick. It's probably like a Reece Robson case where just the writing is on the wall, and he's probably going to end up back in Australia. But fair income, you'd be writing the checkbook at him and telling him to write whatever the hell he wants because we need you. I think the Warriors need to keep Samuel Healy for many years, and it's danger. It's danger zone for the New Zealand Warriors come November 1st. So Sam Healy, I think he's nearly a representative player. If he can break out this year, and there's no reason why he can't, I think he should be a part of the 1 to 17 every single week. I think he is a representative of the not too distant future, not this year and maybe not even the next, but he's got some serious class about him, and I really think he's going to break out hard in 2026, Dor.
Yeah, I think Sam is a very interesting one, but I think a positive that New Zealand fans can take is there was obviously some worry about Luke Metcalf and being able to keep him in New Zealand. Just had a new bub. Congratulations to them all, but they were able. The people were thinking, oh, he needs family support. All these families back in Australia and whatnot, but they were able to keep Luke Metcalf and extend him, and I think that they'll do the same with Samuel Healy. Look, he's not going to be going back to Cronulla, I can tell you that, because Blake Brayley is absolutely killing it there. But Sam Healy, I think the big thing that I like, and I've looked at his stats here and had them up on the screen while Sam was talking, is his tackle efficiency is great. This is his NRL stats here, like 94%. But the big thing here for me is this. So the 45 run meters that he got in season 2025 per game in the NRL, you then put it with his running meters in New South Wales Cup when he's playing much more game time. The tackle efficiency still, even though he's playing a lot more minutes in New South Wales Cup, is still good. It's even better. And his run meters is where the big difference is. And that's what what Sam Healy's game is all evolved around. He's a very solid defender, but it's his speed and decisiveness out of dummy half that is the difference. He can pick a ball up and make a quick, like 10, 20 meters, even more if he catches the defense off guard, just due to his witty and quick speed off the mark, mate. So, yeah, I honestly think, yes, he can talk to clubs at the end of this season, and I think that will play heavily into, his time that he plays this season. I think he'll play a lot more, and yeah, he'll definitely become like a player that we like, oh yeah, Sam Healy, he's definitely one to be playing 1 to 17 every single week for the Warriors. And look, Wade Egan's a really quality player, but like you alluded to before, he's just have horrible luck with head knocks and injuries that it's just, he's just very inconsistent in regards to staying on the field. But I think at some point, if Sam Healy gets a good run of games, it might be that he's just playing too good and Wade Egan has to take the role of 14 and playing like 20 minutes or 30 minutes here and there, maybe at the middle parts of the game, and Healy starts and finishes games. So I don't know, Sam, but I think that they've got to start looking to the future, and I think it's a perfect breakout player because I think that the Warriors need to play Sam Healy a lot more this season. The noise out of New Zealand on Sam Healy is massive. So look, he's just got to play more this season, and they shouldn't have any issues with securing him, I think, for years to come. A real quality prospect, Sam Healy. So make sure you look out for both of these men. Sam Healy, we already know about, but I think he's going to take it by storm this season. And Morgan Gannon, I think, will be much more familiar with after his campaign with the Warriors this season. Now, let's move to the new jerseys. And, they are mighty fine jerseys indeed, Sam. As you can see, the home and the away kit for season 2026. And bro, they are mean as jerseys from the Warriors. I love the red numbers on the back. The sponsor integration is just beautiful. The away strip, there's just the color. Honestly, oh God, I could go on. These jerseys are beautiful. The Warriors always do their jerseys well, but they've outdone themselves. I think these are the best home and away kits probably in the competition together as a whole. I really, really like these jerseys, Sam. So I don't need to say much more. I couldn't think that. I don't think there's anything, even like you look at it and you look at the other jerseys that we've done, and you look and you say, oh, like that sponsorship in the logo on the jersey just hasn't been integrated right, or it's just a disgusting logo or whatever. No disrespect to the sponsor, but the way that the Warriors have sort of like brought into that like Iron Man design with that logo integration there in the middle, like the heart, I think it's just great. It doesn't look bad at all. It like should look bad, but it doesn't. The One New Zealand logo, that is. And yeah, I really, really love the jersey, Sam. It's honestly it can't go wrong for me. It's outstanding. I just love it.
It's integrated well, isn't it? It has been for many years now, man. I'll be honest with you. Maybe it's just because I'm a bit of an older bugger than you, but I preferred the old black and grey New Zealand Warriors jerseys, man. So I know that this is the heritage colours and whatnot, but I do hope one day that they go back to black and silver or black and grey. But for what it is, man, I think it is an improvement, especially the away kit, man. I think it is an improvement over last year's away edition. So, yeah, it is a strong combo. I don't know about the best. That is bold. But no, it is definitely one of the better combos, bro, for sure. So, yeah, this gets a green tick of approval, man.
Yeah. Maybe they do that. They did that. Was it Indigenous round or whatever last year? Or
yeah, they did too, didn't they?
They had that. They had the black and grey or black and white kit.
Yeah, they
I
did
think
something last
I think
year.
that they
Yeah.
probably could do something similar for like Heritage Round or Indigenous Round. I think will be something that they'll definitely look into utilizing again, because you think of the Warriors, you think of the black and white jerseys. Those players like Stacey Jones and whatnot, they were running around in the black and the grey and the white. So look, without further ado, let's go to the predictions. Now, so I'll start as Sam's looking for cover, but yes, I have got the top 8. The Warriors finishing in the top 8 relies solely and a lot on Luke Metcalf and Mitch Barnett staying fully fit. If those guys can stay fully fit, as we saw in as we saw in season 2025, when those guys are on the field, those leaders, Barnett and Metcalf, the Warriors are a really good side. They've got a good draw, A- draw on my scale. And yeah, I really do think that they've got quality players. They've added they've added Morgan Gannon there to help strengthen the forward pack. They've got AKP there to strengthen the back line. They've got good depth in the halves with, you've got Tanner Boyd there, uh, Tamari Martin there to help spearhead the start of the campaign. And then you've got Metcalf there to come in after round 7 and really, finish or, dominate the mid part of the season and finish the back end of the season with real fire, Sam. So look, if they stay positive, they don't have much, don't have many players playing Origin. The only one that could play is probably Kurt Capewell. So they don't really need to worry about Origin representation, apart from maybe Mitch Barnett as well, that I was gonna touch on. Mitch Barnett, maybe Metcalf, but I don't think so with the quality of halves that the Blues have to choose from. So Barnett and Capewell probably. I don't know if Capewell will go again. I think Barnett's definitely a good chance to go for the New South Wales Blues. But for me, good draw. Some milestones like you touched on, Sam, the new home game or the new stadium in Christchurch that they'll get to play at this season for a sold out crowd. I think that it will be hard for the Warriors to miss the top 8. And if they were to miss the 8, I think they would be very disappointed. But there is some reasons, I guess, that there is to be, or some points to be of concern, like I just discussed, the crucial reliance on, making sure that Fisher Harris, Barnett, and Metcalf are all there and fit and firing, that they can't really afford to go down. Yes, there's some quality players to fit in there, but they really don't play, or they really struggle without those type of guys. So, and then obviously, Chance's form and whatnot's going on there, but like I alluded to before, I think if Chance is not performing, Tuapiki will come right in. So yeah, I've got them in the top 8. I think they'll definitely be a lot more consistent this year rather than really good and then a big drop off. So yeah, Wires for the top 8 for me, Sam. Explain to us why you got the Wires in 9 to 13, my friend.
Oh boy. I have been bitten by the New Zealand Warriors more times than not. Everybody has. The way that they faded at the back end of last season, yes, despite the injuries, was pretty graphic. And despite the performance against the Penrith Panthers in that elimination final, a lot left to be desired. Once the floodgates opened, they really did open. I did say about half an hour ago that if they can win that first game against the Roosters, I think they can go 4-0. I think they have the ability to, but that is a lot of pressure on someone like a Tanner Boyd, for example, who is also looking to be upgraded. He's off contract at the end of the year. As a matter of fact, so too is Chanel Harris-Tavita and Tamari Martin. So you've got 3 of the reserve halves, or you've got 3 halves basically that are in a contract year that you don't know where they'll be in 2027. But for right now, I don't think they will start like a house on fire. I think they have the ability to, but I don't think they will. I think that what we spoke about before in Chance Nickel-Klukstar, I admire the way he goes about his game. He's just in gear 6 almost every game, man. But he was very, it was average. It was an average old year for poor Chance Nickel-Klukstar last year. And Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, he was very strong, especially in the second half of the year. But there's that I've seen a lot of team lists that have suggested that maybe he should be playing fullback in 2026. And it's not a bad idea, but it just, and their centers as well. There's no real center that's on lockdown at the moment. Adam Pompey, I think he'll be given the first crack because he had an outstanding 2025 campaign. But you got Ali Leotawa that is knocking on the door. Unfortunately, he was injured deluxe in 2025. And the defensive edges as well with DWZ and AKP. DWZ, I think, sometimes was unfairly targeted for his defense last year, but yeah, there was definitely more. Yeah, he had a lot of games where he was sprinting up out of the line and leaking points and what have you. Their forward pack is not to be questioned at all. Jackson Ford, Mitch Barnett, and James Fisher Harris are strong. Kurt Capewell had a bit of a rejuvenated year, didn't he, in 2025? And Aaron Clark just destroyed it in the lock position, man. So they've got a really impressive forward pack. They do, man. But it really is the toughest top eight that since I've been doing YouTube, talking footy on YouTube since 2021, this is the hardest top eight to try and figure out. And I just look at the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and Dor told me once a couple of days ago off air that it was very bold of me to go Rabbitohs from 14th into the top 5 to 8 bracket. Yeah, it is, but that team on paper is undeniable. The Dolphins have been knocking on the door for the past 2 years and have only missed it by a whisker in consecutive years. And I think with more experience and with Selwyn Cobbo coming up there, I think the Dolphins have more points in them. And that's what leads me to my next point, is that their end to sets, the New Zealand Warriors, over the past 2 years has been pretty average as well. They're not a great scoring team. They once were. That's what they were once known as, this team that just offloads at will and can score 50 points on you in the blink of an eye. But that's not what the Warriors have really been about over the past few years. And a lot of that, they want to be more known as a tough, gritty defensive team. But their kicking game, their end to sets, leaves a lot to be desired, at least in my opinion anyway. And with Metcalf missing the first 6 weeks of the competition, and despite Mitch Barnett still being about or will be about inside that first 6 weeks, the way that they backtracked was graphic, with all due respect to Tanner Boyd, who did play some really good footy. But you look at their run home to the finals from last year, and they were taking on the Titans, they were taking on the Parramatta Eels, and they were losing those games at home in front of their home crowd. They had a very easy run home to the finals, and they absolutely bottled it last year. And again, I reiterate, I've seen this Warriors side. We have seen this Warriors team franchise promise so much, and then one year they're making a grand final in 2011, and then in 2012 they're falling out the arse. So I've been bitten by the Warriors one too many times. I think there are a couple of more teams that are going to be on the improve. It's going to be the hardest top 8 to make. If they do make the top 8, I'm not going to be surprised. This is a top 8 caliber roster, but I don't know. I've just got my spider senses tingling that they're just going to miss out, probably because their start to 2026 might not offer up more wins than what there might be losses. But I might be wrong, and I'll take my licks, and at the end of the season for sure I'll cop it. But I don't want you to miss the top 8, but there's just something telling me that you guys will just miss out. But yeah, no, I'm sorry, Warriors fans. I really hate to do that, because I friggin' love the Warriors like everybody, but no, I can't put them in my top 8 this year. I'm sorry.
It's absolutely fine, Sam. You're entitled to your own opinion. And while it is rough, only 8 teams can make the top 8 or finals footy. So with the amount of quality teams that we have in season 2026, it's very hard to fit everyone in. So unfortunately, some teams have to miss out. So look, thank you so much, Sam. It's another podcast in the book, episode 16, the New Zealand Warriors. Thanks, mate.
You can find my cemetery details in the classifieds tomorrow, bro.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I'll be in the classifieds tomorrow.
Yep,
but thank you, man. No, it was good, man. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody that has continued to tune in over the course of the past month or so, mate. It's been a full-on month, bro, but we're nearly there.
We're nearly there, nearly at the finish line. But no, yeah, thank you so much, Sam, and thank you everyone for tuning in. You know the deal. Like, subscribe to the YouTube pages. and also to get around us on social media as well. But no, thank you so much. We wish New Zealand and you Wars fans all the best in season 2026. And we will see you in the next one. We don't need to worry about telling you it's a surprise that it's the Canberra Raiders is the last one. So we will see you in that one. But no, thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you in the next one. Catch up.